Hello, everybody, and happy Thursday, and welcome to Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. John Schmeelk, Jonathan Casillas with you. The phone number is 201-939-4513, 201-939-4513. Get on the phones, or you can send in your emails to bigbluekickoff@gmail.com. Mr. Casillas, how are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. How about yourself?
Doing all right. Getting ready to go here. Giants and Jets. We can kind of turn the page here, JC. Your thoughts on this Jets team overall and what you've seen from them over the first, by the way, I can't believe it's week 8, the first 7 weeks of this NFL season.
They're led by their defense, led by Quincy Williams. The two corners are fantastic. They've kept them in games. They had some good special teams play, a couple of special teams plays that went against them. But that's it. The Giants going to have to do something offensively against a really talented defensive front that really is very stingy, that can get their hands on footballs and create turnovers, which we've seen for them the last few weeks. 5 turnovers last week against Philadelphia. Four turnovers.
Four. Mm-hmm.
And they made Jalen Hurts look like a terrible quarterback.
All
times.
3 of their wins, JC, they have had 3 or more takeaways.
So I mean that's simple. We talked about it last week, and the major cursor of wins and losses is the turnover battle, and the Giants have to protect the ball against this team. And if the Jets don't take the ball away, they don't really have a chance to win a game because their offense really can't score points without the help of their defense. They just can't.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I made the same point yesterday, and you just don't see them without the benefit of a defensive score, special team score, or a short field, sustaining those long drives to score touchdowns. And I think Zach Wilson, to his credit, has done a better job of not making the big mistake to cost the Jets games. But the consistent offensive production is simply not there. They're bottom 3 in most offensive metrics. And, there just isn't that high level of quarterback play. And quite frankly, after Garrett Wilson, there's not high-level wide receiver play either. They trade Elijah Moore in the offseason. Corey Davis retired. Randall Cobb's a little bit older. Alan Lazard is fine, but he's not, a top wide receiver by any means. So
Conklin's good, the tight end.
Yeah, and so is Uzama, and so is Jeremy Ruckert. They actually have 3 pretty good tight ends on the roster.
Of course, Breece Hall at the backfield, of course.
And he's a monster.
Phenomenal.
Talk about Breece Hall, and as a linebacker, when you look at him, what do you see?
Anything I could say about Saquon, which I've said the last few years, you can say about Breece Hall. He's a guy that no matter what, if he could run for no gain, -1, 1 yard, 2 yards, all of a sudden he has a crease, he can go 70. And him responding off of his knee injury that he had last year, he looks phenomenal. He looks back, and he just need a little crease, and they will rely on him. They will rely on him in the run game. They'll check that ball down him. They'll get the ball to him in the screen game because he's a phenomenal talent. I think probably the best second-year back in the league. He's very consistent. Whenever he touches that ball, he averages almost 7 yards a carry. He's like 6.7 yards per carry.
Yeah, and he's number 1 in the league in yards after contact, too.
And he can break. He can break tackles. He can break runs. He has the speed. He's a big back. He has great feet. He's a really good all-around back, and the Giants have to do a phenomenal job against him because he can do it all for their offense. That Wilson can't, and you really can't name nobody else on their offense, but he can. If he has a day, it could be a long day for the Giants.
So what are they trying to do with Zach Wilson, JC? Is it a lot of screens? I feel like his accuracy downfield just really hasn't been here. That hasn't developed the way you want it to. How are they trying to move the ball with Zach Wilson when they do want to throw? We saw they had a good stretch in the fourth quarter against the Chiefs on that primetime game a couple weeks ago, but otherwise the consistency hasn't been there.
They're trying to do everything like you would do when you have a strong run game and you have a mobile quarterback, which is run the football and basically have play action off of the runs. But sometimes defenses, they're not really fooled. I think you saw Hassan Reddick had a big 12, 10-yard sack last week because he was just sitting and waiting for that quarterback to pull the ball out. So they're trying to find what their identity is on offense, similar to the New York Giants, trying to find their identity on offense. I think both teams have the similar approach of run the ball, be a physical, establish a line of scrimmage, and then have a good play-action game off of that. But sometimes they just don't have enough time, and I'm talking about both teams, the Giants and the Jets. And last week, I think they gave up 5 sacks against the Eagles, and that's kind of how it's been with them because they want Wilson to make plays but not make the bad plays, not throw the interception, not fumble the ball, and I think he does a good job in tucking the ball in and extending drives, getting the first down, and he plays hard. He'll fight for that first down. He'll dive and try to go get it. We've seen that from him in the last few weeks, watching these guys on tape. He's not, I had my opinions about him last year and even earlier this year until I started watching him. And I'm like, okay, he's a guy that possibly won't lose the game for them. But if their defense can't stop guys and this is going to be a low-scoring game. This is going to be a defensive struggle.
Will a team get to 20?
That's the question, right? That's the question. I did a show yesterday. I had the Giants winning 17-14.
I had them 17-16 on the show I did this morning.
It's going to be something like that. And I'm even throwing a defensive touchdown in there. I think both of these teams defensively are very opportunistic defenses. You got Wink Martindale and you got the Jets are loaded on defense. Their defensive line is loaded. They got like 7-8 guys that they just rotate in. Statistically, none of those guys really stand out.
Sack-wise, no, they don't.
Right, but they're consistent in stopping the run. I think they give up a lot of rushing yards versus Denver. Denver had their way with them a little bit on the ground, but Denver couldn't get out their own way, turn the ball over, doing the things that Denver was doing
yes.
all year. And that kept the Jets in the game the entire game. But the defense is consistent, and sometimes they start slow. But this is a team, unlike a lot of teams who struggles offensively. This team, when behind, they somehow find ways to win games at the end. And I could attribute that to their defense, their culture, and Saleh and what he's established over there. These guys don't quit. And they've been down late in games, and they found a way to win a couple of those games.
They have, absolutely. You talk about some of the Jets defensive linemen that have gotten some of their sacks and pressures. I'll just throw some names out there so the fans know them. Bryce Huff leads the team in pressures.
He's a dog.
30% pressure rate, number 1 in the NFL. Higher than Micah Parsons.
Oh, wow.
Higher than Nick Bosa.
He's a dog, bro.
Higher than Aaron Donald. Pressure rate.
He's phenomenal.
Number 1
and he wears
in the
number
league.
47. A little deceptive.
Yes.
But he's a dog.
Only 2.5 sacks, but that guy off the edge is a blur. Quinnen Williams is their big interior rusher. He is only a half sack this year. Remember, though, only Dexter Lawrence only had a half sack before last week, too. It doesn't necessarily mean he's not being
and we saw it again,
a
Dexter
disruptive player. That is correct. John Franklin Myers, another name that a lot of people don't probably know. He just has 1 sack, but almost an 18% pressure rate. He has 26 pressures this year. Jermaine Johnson, the second-year player, who was their first-round pick last year, he has 2 sacks. And then their other defensive tackle, Quentin Jefferson, has 3 sacks. So those are their main rushers. They can all get after it. They're good players. And then I want to get to their linebackers here, JC.
Mm-hmm.
You're our linebacker expert here. C.J. Mosley, Quincy Williams. These guys are balling out right now.
Cream of the crop. They're the cream of the crop, and you could throw in other guys, the San Fran linebackers, both of those guys. But as far as a middle linebacker tandem, these guys are playing at a very high level. They're involved in the run game. They're involved in the passing game. The play that Mosley made against the Chiefs, when he dropped back and picked off Mahomes about 30 yards downfield.
Yeah.
That was a tremendous play. And he's a guy that is very comfortable in the box. He's reading routes. And similar to Bobby Okereke in getting in the passing lanes, he's making windows very difficult in the middle of the field throws. He's there. Quincy Williams, he's I guess as good. I think he's first on the team in tackles, but he can attack the line of scrimmage and he can get the quarterback down. I think he has a couple sacks on a year. So this is going to be, like I said, this is going to be a defensive game. The Giants' defense, I don't think they have to match up against the Jets' offense. They have to match up in the output of what the Jets' defense is going to do.
And yeah, I agree 100%. And finally, before we get to your calls, and guys, we have some open lines. What are you doing here? 201-939-4513. Their secondary, we know how good Sauce Gardner is. DJ Reed as well, good corner. Looks like both will be back this week. But they run that old Seattle system, JC, where the corners don't move.
Yep.
So I think Sauce is on the left side and Reed's on the right side, right? So what's the advantage of doing it that way for a defense, not moving your corners and just leaving them there? And then how do you think the Giants should attack that, knowing what side those cornerbacks are going to be on?
Well, number one, you got one of the most talented corners in the league, despite age. I mean, he's young, Sauce Gardner, but he's very talented. he fits that height, weight, speed, tall, long, fast, very athletic, great technique, great ball skills. He can't catch the ball, but he can get his hands on the ball. Hopefully
you are kiss-of-deathing us here, JC.
Hopefully that doesn't come back to haunt us.
Yeah.
But he's a tremendous corner.
I'm definitely bringing that up in the postgame show if he gets a pick.
But this is the thing.
You know.
when you're offensively, you know where he's at.
Yes.
It's not like, he's moving around, they're trying to disguise. No, he's going to be on the right side, and you can go away from him.
Same way the Seahawks used Richard Sherman back in the day. Always on the same side.
And that's why some of those numbers, like Richard Sherman, he led the league in picks, I think maybe 1 year, and then he was down in interceptions a lot because they was like, I'm just not going to throw over there.
Right.
Similar to him is I think it can be very advantageous for an offense, especially when you have an offense like this, when all the receivers play different positions. I think Jalen Hyatt stays outside mostly, but everybody else pretty much rotates around and he's moving around. So if they want to have a specific guy that they want to target, they can go away from Sauce Gardner. And the question is, Sauce Gardner and Reed, are they playing this week? They've been on the injury report. I still see them being questionable because I think that changes what they're going to do, and I think that changes what the Giants are going to do.
They both practiced in full yesterday, and I would think it looks like they're going to get cleared out of concussion protocol next couple of days. We'll see if they go, though, which will be very important, obviously. We don't have an update on who's practicing and who's not today. There was quite the laundry list of guys that were limited yesterday. I'll just go through that list for you real quick in case you guys missed it. And as Brian Dable should be doing a flyby with the media shortly to give another further idea of exactly who's practicing today. But yesterday, limited: Saquon with the elbow, Graham Gano with the knee, Adoree with the neck, Daniel with the neck, Evan with the ankle, Schmitz with the shoulder, Thibodeau with the knee, and then did not participate Gary Brightwell and Leonard Williams. And I think there was, and Andrew Thomas and Darren Waller were both limited as well with hamstring injuries. So we'll see what those guys do today, if they are able to do more, and we'll track John Michael Schmitz and Andrew Thomas and Daniel Jones, of course, and Adoree Jackson and Evan Neal, all starters, as to whether or not we think they're going to be able to go this week. So we'll keep an eye on that for you. Give us a call, folks, 201-939-4513, 201-939-4513. John Schmeelk, Jonathan Casillas, right here on Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Giants. Don't forget to go subscribe to the Giants Huddle podcast. That is presented by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. You can find it on your favorite podcast platform, Giants.com, the Giants app. One of my favorite interviews of the year, Matt Ryan, who's calling the game for CBS this week. He also called the game for CBS last week. He gave us pretty much a full 30 minutes. Lance and I talked to him, and he really went deep inside the quarterback position, how the issues on the offensive line and all the hits Daniel Jones is taking can impact the quarterback, how Tyrod's done stepping in, how the impact of Saquon Barkley, the Giants offense, and then he does a little preview of Giants-Jets for us as well. Really good interview. I really stress you guys should go check that out. It's up there right now on the Giants Huddle podcast. Again, Giants.com/podcast, Giants app, or just search for the Giants Huddle podcast on your favorite podcast platform. While you're doing that, go subscribe to the Giants Hangout, our brand new podcast. We have our Monday episode is up already with Lance Howard and Russ. And then later today, we're going to have JC, Brandon London, and Madeline Burke do their Thursday edition of the Hangout. So go check that out. All right, 201-939-4513. And again, we have some open lines, folks, so get in if you want to talk some Giants football with us. Let's go to Ralph in Florida. He's up first. Hi, Ralph.
Hey, John. Hey, buddy. What's up, Jonathan?
What's going on, Ralph? How you doing, Papa?
Howdy.
Hey, yeah. So, one thing, everything with the Tyrod and Daniel Jones controversy, it's ridiculous. But at the end of the day, one of the things that I don't know if you guys have picked up on it, but the offensive line, has played a little better. But the key to me is the less penalties they have had. Like, they have, I think, maybe in the last two games, maybe 3 penalties on the offensive line. Am I right, John? Or it might be a little bit more.
I think Pugh might have had 3 on his own.
I know Pugh
games.
had 2 false starts 2 weeks ago. He had 1 false start this week.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember if anyone else.
Did he have a holding play? Did he have the holding play, right?
Yeah, he had a holding penalty on Chase Young, but I believe they completed a pass on that play, so I think that penalty was declined. And
okay, but no, remember
I will check
the
to see.
4th and 2 play. What was the 4th and 2 play? Remember that Rivera sent him back instead of leaving at 4th and 2?
Oh, yes, correct. No, you're right. No, yes. You are absolutely correct. That was a hold on Justin Pugh in that play. You're right. Correct.
Okay. But I'm just saying, if you look at it, how many penalties during our crazy span of getting beat, how many did they have? They had so many. Like, it's everything goes hand in hand. And that's one thing that I don't understand from fans and, people that just, I get the Daniel Jones bashing and all that, but you got to see things in perspective. Like, yes, was Daniel Jones not playing up to his level, of course, but there's just so many factors against him that it's not making excuses. It's just truth. It's just facts. And my second point, the key to this game, is stopping the run and Breece Hall, but I'm saying a sneaky thing that we cannot overlook, and our pass rushers cannot get out of their passing lane. Zach Wilson will run. So, we're going to probably be playing a lot of man-to-man, so that's something that we got to keep in check on third down, not letting him get out the pocket and running for first downs. You know what I'm saying? He's not a running quarterback, but he is athletic enough to run for first downs. And those are that's a sneaky thing against the Jet game. And as far as our offense against the Jets, the defense of the Jets is it's a good defense. But can they be beat? Yeah, I think they can be beat. I think if we run the ball effectively and again stay ahead of the sticks, and again, like you say, guys, playing with the lead where your playbook is open. It's not close, one-sided, and you only can do one thing. So, I love you guys. I'll take my answers off the air. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ralph. Appreciate the call. JC, a lot to cover there.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Giants have to play a clean game of football for 4 quarters. They just haven't done that quite yet. I think totally for the whole season, they played 4 quarters of really good complementary football, right? First half last week, second half of the Arizona Cardinals game. That's a whole game right there, But that's it. They cannot do that for the rest of the year because if the Jets come out and they run the ball efficiently and they throw the ball efficiently, their defense is going to play well. The Giants could get blown out if the Jets can hit it on offense and vice versa. If they can play a 4-quarter game against the Jets where they can score a touchdown in the first half and the second half instead of one or the other, and they can get points on the board, run the ball efficiently, not make mistakes on special teams, and be clean with the offensive line play, the Giants could have a great game against a very talented defense. But that's the difficult part. This defense has made a lot of good offenses not look good. I think Jalen Hurts and what they're doing in Philadelphia, I think they can score a lot of points at times. I think they can run the ball efficiently. They've always done it.
Oh, they have a great offense.
They did not do that against the Jets.
Nope.
They're usually clean. They don't turn the ball over a lot. They turn the ball over 4 times. Jalen Hurts, like I said, he threw some horrible passes. And I was wishing he did that against the Giants one time last year, and he did it.
No, he does not.
But he doesn't do that. So that's you got to attribute that to this defense and what they're able to do. Mahomes only put up 23 points against them, and they're scoring, 35 points a game. Defensively, they were able to do some things against Mahomes to make him look flustered. Like I said, Mosley had a great they picked him off twice in the first half. These guys, when that ball is in the air, they think it's theirs on defense, and that's the attitude as a good defense, as a dominant defense. That's the attitude you need to have. That's how they play. They play like that's our football and we're taking it back. And you can see that by how violently they attack the ball, how they run to the ball. Mosley and Quincy Williams, they finish every single tackle. If their guys are running up and they're trying to fight for extra yards, 57's around, 59 is it? 55? I don't know. Quincy Williams, they're coming in with an angry attitude and they're trying to dislodge you from that ball. That's what they're trying to do. And they all play like that. I think Jordan Whitehead plays at a high level. He has a couple picks on a year.
Yep.
And these guys, defensively, they can win games. We've seen that happen. The Giants figured it out last week. Defensively, they won the game last week because only scoring 14 points, that shouldn't give you a win, but they did. And defensively, the Giants won a game. The Jets, they've been doing that the whole year. They got 3 wins, but all of that's from defense. And even in the games they lost, the defense was the reason why they were in the game. So the Giants have to play as good as the Jets on defense because the Jets can dominate a game defensively. We've seen that happen.
Absolutely. He asked about the penalties, last week. And just real quick, I'll run through them. Justin Pugh had an offensive holding penalty. Mark Lewinsky had an offensive holding penalty. Xavier McKinney had the unnecessary roughness. Deontay Banks had a defensive holding. So those are the 4 penalties for 40 yards that the Giants had last week. 2 on offensive line, right? Yep, 2 on the offensive line.
They have been cleaner, though. We've seen the offensive line, I think, take a step forward in the last 2 weeks. I still don't like them giving up 5 sacks. And I remember a pregame, you had the over being 3.5, and you hit overs on both. And me and Paul was like, man, in the first half, we was like, man, he got it on Washington. And then the second half, I said, man, he going to win both of them, man. But you knew it because both teams' defensive line played at the level that we expected kind of both of them to play at. You know, I think we knew how good the Commanders' defensive line was, and we knew that Dexter Lawrence needed a game. And I knew he was going to step up against when you're playing against a team that has good position players at your position, even if it's on the other side, right? Defensively, or for the Commanders' defensive line. When you're not being talked about as much as the other side, you feel some type of way. You practice a little different. Your mindset is a little different. You might go to sleep a little early. You might take an extra energy drink. I don't know, but they play. And Dexter Lawrence, we haven't seen him do that all year. Every play, he was dominant. Like, it wasn't just disruptive. He was dominant. Nick Gates got his butt kicked the entire game. And I expect everyone to build off of that. I expect them to let that momentum flow into this week because everybody's talking about this Jets defense, rightfully so.
All right, got a couple emails here. And again, we have some open lines, folks. We want to get in 201-939-4513. You don't want to wait. This is the time to call, and we'll get to you pretty much right away here. So Michael Erta calls in. He has a very long email, but I'll get down to the crux of it. Why doesn't this team use a fullback more? You have some issues on the offensive line. You can help with the fullback in protection. Your thoughts on that? And his quote, I don't want to hear that it's a passing league. A good coach has to adjust to the offensive players that he has. In the least, we should have Bellinger playing H-back to afford some more protection. Your thoughts?
I mean, he answered his own question. They don't have a fullback on the roster. And you would have to put Bellinger. I don't think there's anybody else that will play fullback. You have to put him at fullback, which is not his position. He can do it, but they haven't really done it this year. I thought they were going to be doing a lot this year. I thought Bellinger was going to be a guy that was outside, that was on the line, that was H-back, that was fullback, and you just haven't seen it. I don't know why. I'm not Kafka. I'm not an offensive coordinator. But I don't know if it's going to open up the offense. But, I mean, when you look at the teams that are running the ball efficiently, that have really good offenses, they use the fullback. You know, Miami, they're number 1 in the league in using their fullback, and they're the number 1 team in rushing. And they also have the number 1 explosive offense in the league. So he has there's some, credence there to what he's saying, but the Giants don't have a real fullback on the team. Bellinger is not a real fullback.
Well, let me ask you,
a tight end.
From a defensive perspective, how does having a fullback on the field help an offense or give a defense issues?
Well, for me, I like it because that keeps the linebacker on the field. See how I always do that?
He's looking for snaps.
Yeah, it depends on what they're doing schematically. When I look at Miami and what they do, they move a lot, they shift a lot, and it's a lot of eye candy. And I think the fullback sometimes he could be there just to show you something that's not really there, And I think it's all about the scheme that you're running. So I've seen offenses that don't have fullbacks that are highly explosive in New Orleans with Drew Brees. All of the years we were a passing offense, but they ran the football with a fullback every single year I was there.
And by the way, the 49ers and the Dolphins run the football with a fullback. Correct.
Yep.
They do.
Yep. So look, it has its advantages, but there's other teams. I don't know if Baltimore does, but Baltimore have a fullback. I know they used to back in the day.
The converted offensive lineman, Richard.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. But other offenses, they can be fully functional without that fullback if it doesn't require a fullback in this scheme of their offense.
Of course.
This league has shifted away from a fullback because this is now a passing league.
Like, for example, the Rams, to give you an example, they run the same system as Shanahan, right? Same trait. The Rams never use a fullback.
Yep.
They're at 11 personnel all the time. So it really just does depend on the scheme.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying they shouldn't do it. They just haven't done it. And they really don't have a real fullback. You would have a guy playing a position, he would be playing out of position. And as we've seen, Shepard, everybody on offensive line, sometimes that's not advantageous when you're having a guy play out of position.
Let's go to CJ in the Bronx. He wants to talk about the run game. We'll build on the fullback conversation. CJ, what's up?
No, that was quick.
I told you. I wasn't lying. I told you it'd be fast, bro.
Yo, what's Greg Roman doing right now? Because right now our running game is not great at all. I'm not going to say at all, because when Barkley came in, it's been a big difference in the last 2 games. And that's the difference between Tyrod Taylor's play and Daniel. But we bring Greg Roman, has a history of a great running game, and team him up with Dabo and Kafka. I think it will make a big difference.
Well, it does not look like Greg Roman is currently employed. I don't know if you would want to take a non-coordinator position, to your point. But look, I mean, with Saquon being out and then the offensive line being as messed up, people talk about the offense on the pass protection. I think they miss one of the other main parts of that conversation. It's very hard to. It actually probably takes a little bit more coordination to run the football as an offensive line than it takes to pass it. It might be more fun and easier for them, but like those combo blocks, JC, and stuff like that. If you're not familiar with the guy next to you, it's tough.
Yeah, exactly, and it doesn't matter who's coaching a line that hasn't had consistency of the lineup. And they have guys going down. You have guys playing out of position. You got practice squad guys playing. Like, this is – the Giants' offensive line has had attrition hit them since week 1. The best player was down since week 1, and Andrew Thomas. He hasn't been back. Literally, Justin Pugh was on the couch, and that's a huge thing. But, that is so difficult to do.
And their starting center's been gone since week 3.
And then you got Evan Neal, who has his struggles. And then Bredesen, who's moved to center. He's trying to do that job, which is a very difficult job of snapping the ball and blocking the biggest guy on the football field.
And I thought he actually had his best game at center against the Commanders.
Look, these guys are playing better, but it's still patchwork. Mm-hmm. It's still guys playing in different positions. You still have your best player out. You have a guy that's playing left tackle who is, I think, undersized, even though he played at that weight or less than that weight. But, this is a patchwork offensive line. How do you make gumbo? You got to have really good ingredients.
Yeah, and CJ, to JC's point, I think the point we're making is that you could bring in, the best run game coordinator in the world right now with the parts up front. And again, it's been, to your point, and you're right, it's been a lot better since Saquon's been back. I just don't think you're going to have that type of transformative effect that you're looking for.
Yeah, I know. I understand that, but you got to understand the last few years it's been bad, and that's been said a whole bunch of times on the show. But seeing Eagles have Jeff Stoutland after they had Howard Mugg, I think it was Howard Mudd.
Yep.
Yeah. Before that, in their history of winning for the last 10, 15 years, we got to do something. We can't just keep on hiring these offensive coordinators and they bringing their friends at offensive line. I'm not trying to disrespect. I don't like calling him OG because I'm actually born around here, so I know what that name Bobby Johnson means around here.
Just call him Bobby Johnson, man. It's all good.
You want to do it, but you can't. I know.
Yeah, but we got to do something. If Greg Roman's not doing anything, and there's a chance Kafka might go to Northwestern, it's not a bad idea to bring the guy in at least to talk and say, hey, guys, let's step over here. Let's work together here to the next level. Something. All right, guys, have a good one.
Appreciate the call, man. And I think you're crossing wires there a little bit, right? Because you're talking about OC and then you're talking about offensive line coaches. So those are two
He just wants better
conversations.
offensive line play. He's trying to figure out a solution for the Giants, which we're all trying to figure it out too.
Yeah, and look, I honestly believe that Bobby Johnson's a good offensive line coach. Like, I talk to Sean O'Hara about it all the time. He swears by him. He thinks he knows what he's doing. He's a good coach.
But there's no Sean O'Hara on the offensive line.
Well, that's the thing.
There's no David Deal. There's no, Andrew Thomas, but he's hurt. He's been hurt. He's been hurt for weeks.
And they lost their second round. I mean, look, I said it last week. In last week's game, JC, this team had 9 players, 9 offensive linemen on their initial 53-man roster. There were 3 left last week.
Man.
3. 1/3.
I'm sorry, but the best offensive line coach in the world is going to struggle with that, no matter what. There's only so many schemes that you can put together. And that's why when I think about the Giants' run game, it's yes, they might get stopped at the line, might be a negative run here, might have to punt the ball several times. But if you stick to the run game, they're going to figure out how to block it at least one time. They're going to get hat on hat once or twice, and when you have a guy like Saquon, he's going to break it for 30. He's going to break it for 40. He might break it for 60. And I think the same way about the Jets. The Jets have the same type of, I think, mentality is you keep blocking it up. You keep blocking up. You give this running back a crease, and he's gone. Now if you have more consistent play from the offensive line, you wouldn't have to be kind of banging your head, and you would score a lot more points. You'll have a lot more manageable third downs, but we don't have that.
Yeah, and
we just don't have the luxury of that.
And I'm going to fight back on CJ in one thing. He said, going back to last year, the run game, it wasn't good. They were the fourth best rushing team in the league last year.
Yep.
They averaged the fifth most yards per carry, fourth most yards per game.
Yep.
Some of that's Daniel Jones scrambling.
Yes, it was.
In fairness. But Saquon had a good year last year. I mean, their red zone running was a huge reason they were as successful as they were, because they were able to run for touchdowns in the red zone. That was one of their strengths of the team last year.
Yep, both Daniel Jones and Saquon.
Absolutely. So I thought they did a really nice job running the ball last year with the run game. So I'll fight back on that part of it just a little bit. And I think with Saquon healthy and the offensive line getting healthier, I think you'll start seeing the run game, come back to where you want it to be this year.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the offensive line, when you started this year, if you go man-to-man for who they had last year, I think they did improve. But all of those guys, like you said, to your point, those guys are not playing right now. So even if you think that we've upgraded at offensive line, whether through the draft or free agency or guys just playing at a higher level, you haven't had the guys out there. And it's very difficult to have very good offensive line play when there's no consistency, when you have guys that's moving and playing out of position, when you have guys playing new positions. Like this is what they're dealing with. And I feel like as time goes on, as long as they don't, as long as they get healthy, because guys are coming back. We just don't know when. Hopefully sooner than later. But as guys get healthy, I think you will start seeing a little bit more consistency in the lineup. And you'll see more consistent play from the offensive line, and that will equal better runs on first and second down, more passing protection and on third down and in passing situations. I think what Tyrod Taylor has done in the passing game, getting that ball out on time, and what we haven't spoke about, the tempo that the Giants had last week,
a lot in the huddle,
especially early in the game.
Yeah.
They were getting on that ball really fast, and we haven't spoke about it. I'm mad I didn't hit on it in the post game.
Go ahead.
But this is something that I think – there's a reason why they was able to score points early, because the tempo, I don't think they've showed that all year.
Does that slow down a pass rush?
Yes, it does.
How so?
It's
Why?
Quickly, because number one, you can't really get on a rhythm, right? As a defense, it's like, all right, take a break. You got about a 30-second break to the next play, and then quarterbacks usually snap the ball around the same time. Everybody's different, but quarterbacks stick to the same because it's a rhythm that they get in.
Sure.
Right? They get the call, they make their little checks and audible, blah, 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 blah. They're getting that ball out, right? Defensively, if you have a blitz timed up, you can time that thing up. But when they're running fast-paced offense, you got to get back to the huddle. You're getting a call in. Everybody has to get the line up, and then the ball is snapped. You can't process information as much as you can. Second down and long, what are they like? As a linebacker, they give you all of the tendencies of offenses. So it's like second and long, right after a run. They're like 80% pass. And like you don't think about it, but if you have 35 seconds between the play, that's something that factors through your head. It's like, all right, this is a run tendency. This is a pass tendency. But if you're getting on the ball real quick, you don't have time to think like that.
Interesting. Okay.
And then they throw in a slower play. Like they run it fast pace, and then they slow it down. That throws your rhythm off on defense now. They know what they're doing. Defenses are reacting to what they're doing. So you might be lined up, ready to go. All of a sudden, they look to the sideline, or they're holding it for a little bit, and they go slow tempo. Now you're thinking like, all right, now I get. It's throwing the defense off. It's almost like having them on their heels.
Do you get some fatigue as well for the big guys on the defensive line in the no huddle if you don't let them substitute?
Of course, and especially when guys are used to substituting. If guys are used to playing 2 or 3 downs, all of a sudden they're at 7, 8 straight plays. Like mentally, that's like, oh my God, like what am I doing in here? Like I'm very tired. Like I'm used to playing fresher. That can do a lot. So I love the way that they had tempo offense early, and I think they need to do that for their whole game and let it be random. Don't just do it like the whole game, because I think that'll put a lot of stress on the offense. I think you do it randomly. Just do it the second drive of the second quarter. Just do it. You know what I mean? When you come out in the third quarter, do it. Fourth quarter, do it. Like, don't do it the whole game. I think that'll burn your offense out. You don't want to run 85 plays, but you definitely want to throw the defense off. In a defense like this, you don't want to have them guys sitting back and thinking about tendencies. Especially early in the game, you hit them in the mouth early, and then you play and you consistently try to run that ball, and then got to take the shots. I don't care who's playing corner. You got to take the shots. You have to. We saw every single time the Giants have an explosive play on offense.
They can score.
They can score points. That's just facts, bro. That's just what happens with us.
Back to the no huddle real quickly. I want to ask you this. You also have to have some level of success, right, to make that work.
Yes,
if you're going no huddle,
that's with anything you're trying to do.
Right. But my point though is that if you're going no huddle and you just keep going 3 and out, like you're killing your defense, right? Because they're not getting any rest. You're off the field and sometimes a minute.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, then you're putting your defense in a tough spot, right? So you could probably only do that for a longer period of times if you're actually sustaining some drives.
And the reason why you see it early in game because it's scripted. A lot of these,
right.
Most of these offensive coordinators, they script their first 15 plays. They call it the first 15, and it usually involves some type of no huddle. And this is why early on in games you see multiple formations. You see different people getting the ball. You see a shot. You see a reverse. You see different plays because that's part of the first 15. That's why when they be like, oh, this quarterback is 8 for 8 and he completed a pass to 7 different receivers. That's part of the first 15 to feature different guys, mix it up, whole bunch of different formations, whole bunch of different personnels. And then once the defense steps up and make a stop, that's when you kind of get off that script of what they're doing. So when people say the NFL is scripted, they do have a script. But it's just offensively that they do. And then also defensively, they kind of know the script a little bit. They kind of know and then that's where the chess game comes at. It's like last week we did this on first and second down. This week we're going to do this on first and second down. But like I said, I just like the tempo that the Giants put out early in the game. But I'd like to see it show up more outside of that first 15.
All right. I'm going to get to you in a second, Tim. One more follow-up. As you said, taking shots down the field. Right? I'm going to throw a couple stats out there for the fans. And you watch it on tape. And again, this is your cover 3, don't let guys get behind you type of defensive strategy that the Jets play. So they've only allowed 16 pass plays of 20 more yards, tied for 3rd fewest in the league. This is my favorite one, though. JC, what do you think opponent passer rating is for the Jets on passes that travel at least 20 yards in the air?
Not good. 30.
0.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was my reaction when I saw. I've been doing these type of stat breakdowns for half a decade. I've never seen that before.
But that's also with Sauce Gardner healthy, right? And Reed healthy, right? Which they potentially could be out this week. Both of them.
Both of them have missed at least a game, though. So they've had a couple games without those guys out there, and they're still at 0.
Yeah.
I've never seen that before.
Yeah, me neither.
0.
Me neither. That means they're doing a good job down the field.
Which means their plays that are going for 20-plus yards, it's catch and run.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something with Wan'Dale Robinson and guys, Sterling Shepard, maybe a Paris Campbell gets a shot at, Saquon Barkley out of the backfield, Darren Waller.
Where's Paris Campbell been at?
He's been doing special teams.
Yeah, I've seen him out there too.
He's not been out there on offense, though. So maybe they can get those guys on, get them on the move, moving across the formation against that 3-deep zone and get some run after the catch.
Yeah, I think when you sit back I don't think you can just sit back and try to line up and beat the Jets defense. Like you have to move guys around. You have to feature certain guys on different drives.
Yeah, because they're very sound. They're not going to make a mistake to give you big plays. They tackle very well, too. Correct.
Yeah, this is a very good coach team, especially defensively. And they do everything that you want out of a defense. Like they fight hard for 4 quarters. Even if they're losing late in the game, they find a way to get the ball. Like they picked off Jalen Hurts. They were losing at the end of the game.
Yeah.
They were losing, and they had a pick 6 that won the game for them. And then they forced Jalen Hurts to have to throw another interception after that. This team is going to play 4 quarters of football, especially on defense.
All right, let's go to Tim in Charleston. Tim, what's going on, man? How's your day off going? Treating you all right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I thought it was a different voice. I said, who was that? It's weird. When you went online, it sounded like your voice changed. So, yeah. And on my day off, Wednesday's my day off now. But,
okay.
So anyway, hey, John, hey, Jonathan, Mr. Schmeelk, I have to talk to you specifically about something very important.
Yes.
And that's who's the starter and who's the backup, who's number 1, who's number 2. Now, just because your backup has a couple of good days, maybe, does something special one day.
Nah, Tim, you make a good point.
Wait. Let me finish.
It's the Daniel Jones Tyrod argument.
I don't think you know where I'm going with
No,
this.
I think I know exactly where you're going with this, actually, because Pearson has a big smile on his face.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I just want to point out, not to take anything away from Dom, and he may have had some great numbers at his fingertips yesterday. But Pearson is the number one producer, and we can't let this well-oiled machine be ruined by a producer controversy.
Thank you.
Well,
I'm not done.
No, Tim, don't worry. I'll have plenty of time to make your Giants point. I do want to update this. But Dom had a really good producing performance yesterday, and I said he had moved up on the depth chart a little bit.
Okay.
Then Dom.
No, you said he was number one. You elevated him to number one, John.
Well, look, there are only two people in the depth chart, so if you move up, you're going from 2 to 1, right? I'm not lying about that.
He does one show every month.
Yes, he does. That's true. But he did a good. See, Pearson, you have to keep the pressure on your number one guy, right? So you got to always make. Yeah, you can't let him get comfortable. Yeah. But now here's the problem. Here's what Dom did. Typical Staten Island fashion here. So he walks into the other room and he starts telling people this, and he starts bragging. So it gets around. So he went out there, toots his own horn, and gets cocky about it. So that automatically moved him back down to number 2.
Yeah, you can't do that, man.
So Dom's good performance slid him up. But then he went back there, and he just made such a big deal about it. He was, like, parading around about it. You know, everyone keeps asking me about it. And I'm like, Dom, come on, man. Like, you got to play this cool a little bit. Yeah. And then he screws up the teaser. So you put all that together, and he has slid back down to back up.
I'm going to get him, too, when I see him.
You need to throw a flag on him for unsportsmanlike conduct.
Absolutely. and then Pearson's Celtics come out with the win last night, so he's really flying high now.
All right. So back to football now. Oddly, I mean, I want to talk about punting real quick and then my prediction for this week's game. So 2 things on the punting. One thing I remember just at the end of preseason how McGahee was talking about, and actually Gillian did as well, how when they're down in that area where they can put the ball in close to the end zone, he wants every punt to be between the 8 and the 10-yard line. And I think that Gillian has done an excellent job. I think that 80% of his punts in that zone
have been
between like the 8 and the 11. Last week he missed one of those. But I wanted to throw kudos out there because McGahee called it and Gillian has delivered.
By the way, he's also putting the ball on the sidelines too. Everything's not in the middle of the field. So it's very hard to find anything to complain about
ever since that
the job Jamie Gillian's done.
75-yard punt that he had that got returned for a touchdown. He's been good. He's been really good. Really good.
You don't see a lot of punters who roll out like him either. That's pretty crazy. But so the second thing is now I don't want to see Sterling Shepard out there as a catching a punt again. But in his defense, that win we know was ferocious. And I remember listening to BBKL on Friday or Saturday, and talking. I think it was Dable or one of you guys talking about how the last 2 days have been beautiful out here, no wind. So that didn't help because they didn't get to practice in those conditions. So. To my prediction, and I agree with both you guys, defensive game all the way. I have my personal over-under set at about 31 on this game, just counting maybe a defensive touchdown. But my prediction for the game is 16-13 Giants, and I'll take it off the air.
Thank you, Tim.
Very similar to the scores we put out there, too.
Look, I think if one of these teams gets to 20, I feel really good about that team winning the game.
I agree. Yep. And speaking about the return issues that the Giants been having, the Giants need a real returner,
And they signed one this week in Gunnar Olszewski, who has a history of returning punts in the league.
Is he active? Or is he on P Squad?
He's P Squad right now.
And Corbin too, right?
Corbin's on the active roster.
Oh, he's on active roster.
Yeah, but he got pulled off a practice squad, so he has to be kick, not punt.
Yeah, there is a difference.
Mm-hmm.
See, but this is my thing. Like, you put Sterling Shepard out there, right? Sterling Shepard, how many times has he returned a punt inside of MetLife at 1 p.m.?
Yeah, I mean, he's done it on the practice field, obviously, but not in MetLife.
The sun was blazing.
No,
and it wasn't blazing, but it was very bright.
And the wind was bad.
The wind was bad.
Sterling was talking about in the locker room yesterday. He goes, look, the ball started on one side of the field, and it blew all the way to the other side of the field. And look, guys, I was comfortable catching punts, but he's like, I've never seen
that before.
The ball move like that before.
But that's why you need an experienced punt returner that understands that. At least he gives himself a shot. On some real stuff, Sterling can have a shot with those conditions. And you saw Gray struggle with it too. You need a real returner that has been there before, not a young returner. I'm sorry. The Giants just have too many woes at special teams. You need experience returning that football.
So what do you think this week? Slayton, Adoree Jackson? Are they going to elevate
Definitely not Adoree. Don't do that again. And I love Adoree. I love Sterling. I love Adoree. But have somebody back there The most important thing is catching the football. I don't care what type of return they have.
You don't even care about returns anymore,
Just
do you?
catch the ball.
Yeah, I got you.
Like, there's so many times, like, we've had how many muffs now? 2 or 3 now? It's 2 or 3 muffs now?
Yeah,
on the year?
Maybe 4.
And how many times the ball hit and rolled? Yeah. Because of they were, Sterling was like, I'm not going to go ahead and go out my way to this ball like that I could possibly drop. And he ended up dropping one anyway. But it's like, you need a guy that understands how these kickers kick, the punters punt, where the trajectory of the ball is going to be at, understand the wind, how to do with the sun. Like, there's a lot. First of all, catching a punt is very difficult without any of those conditions. You add all of those conditions in, you need literally a top-tier guy doing this, because I think it's just too much risk. And the Giants, it's like they're waiting for a mistake to happen there. Like having these guys that had limited punt return in games, limited punt return reps in games out there in the conditions like they were, it was putting themselves at risk. And it ended up haunting us twice last week. Not just once, maybe 3 times last week, letting that ball hit the 2 months. Like, let's get a real returner so we're not concerned every time the ball is up in the air, bro. I'm like this. Please catch the ball. Please catch. That's not good. Let's put somebody back there that's a pro that has done it for a while. I think it was unfair that they put Sterling Shepard in that position. And then they expect him to do something on offense. Like, he's already mentally like, dang, I got to do something back, and they're not even giving them reps. Like, that's a real tough place to be at, bro. When you make a bad play and you really can't get it back, that's hard, man.
By the way, just updating on what Sunday's going to look like at the old Meadowlands here. Well, that's from Miami, Florida, so I guess I should probably update that.
Yo, the weather's changed every day.
Yeah.
I've been checking the weather the last 3 days. The weather has changed every single day for the weekend. Every day.
Has it?
It's completely different.
All right, well,
yesterday was supposed to be raining on Sunday because Saturday is supposed to be really warm. It's supposed to rain on Sunday, and I checked it today. It showed low chances of rain.
All right, so this is for
higher weather.
This is for East Rutherford, New Jersey. Whoa, down to 60? Holy cow. I thought it was supposed to be hot on Sunday. What happened to that? So it's 81 on Saturday, mostly sunny, and then some kind of front must come in. And here's what the description is. This is courtesy of weather.com. Considerable cloudiness with occasional rain showers, high around 60, winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. So that's where we're at right now in terms of what Sunday looks like.
Got to check the weather every day. Jersey weather's crazy.
Yeah, I guess the weather system must have moved up, because I thought Sunday was supposed to be like, 70s or something like that. I guess not.
I checked it yesterday, it was supposed to be rainy and chilly. Like, I mean, you guys know geology a little bit, right? Like, in terms of warm fronts and cold fronts.
So balmy is what you're telling me. Balmy.
Balmy. I had to look that up. I said, that is not right, Paul. It's not right.
Inside joke for the pregame show.
Right. But when it's warm out and there's a cold front coming, there's always a storm. There's always rain that happens in the middle of that.
It's when the fronts hit, and that's when you get the rain.
So next week, we're going to have 30-degree weather next week. This week is going to be in the 80s. Next week is going to be in the 30s.
See, I never check the weather.
I always check the weather, bro.
Here's why. Here's my weather theory, and it's cockamamie, but then it doesn't make any sense. But I'll live with that. It's fine. For me, I never trust you guys to be right anyway. So why am I going to waste my time looking at the weather if I'm not going to really believe what's there anyway? That's why I check it
every day. I check it in the morning before I get dressed.
Yeah, see, that's fair.
I have to before I leave the house. I got my dog now. I want to see if I can take him out if it's raining. There's a lot of reasons why I check the weather.
All right, so let's see. So, yeah, you're right. On Halloween, high of 51, low of 41. And then the next day, high of 48, low of 36. And then by the next weekend, it's back into the 60s again when the Giants are in Vegas. So
it's crazy weather, man. The weather has changed so much, too, since when I was a kid. Like, there's really no real fall. Like, we're in the middle of fall, but we got 80 degrees. That never happened back in the day.
It was
once the leaves fell, it's going to get cold. Yeah. Now, the leaves don't even fall till, like, December. In September, the leaves were falling. In November, they were gone. Now, they're still green all over the place.
Pearson, what do you got?
Just a great weather segment. I'm loving this.
All right, let's talk football, please. You got time? Right.
Yes. By the way, if you guys want to call, we can squeeze in one more call, 877-337-6666. Have a couple of emails, and again, send them in bigbluekickoff@gmail.com. Mikey Della Vella from Los Angeles, California. He has a statement and a question. Statement. I think this time off for DJ might be good for him. start to play with a little bit of, he calls it PTSD in the pocket. And aside from getting healthy, he gets an outside point of view of the offense, can recharge his mental, and gain motivation to play at an elite level. I say he comes back strong. Do you want to comment on the statement first?
I think he hit it on the head. I think that's a good analysis of what's happening, where Daniel Jones was at. I thought he did need a break. I think him getting hurt was, I wouldn't say good for him, but like it gave him the time to get a chance to really relax. Like as a starting quarterback in the NFL that has in New York, that hasn't been playing up to the standard that we've seen them play at. Offensive line struggles, getting beat down every week. That takes a toll on you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and every type of elite that you can put on that. It hits you. So being able to take a break in the middle of the season, even if it's due to injury, it's a good thing when he was in the position that he was in. A lot of pressure was on Daniel Jones. A lot of pressure was on his offense. And literally, Tyrod Taylor stepped up, like, not saying no pressure on him, but it was almost like, all right, we've been performing so poorly offensively. Like, if you can just do something, we'll be good.
All right.
He didn't only just do something. He won a game.
Here's the question.
Yeah.
So that was the shot. Here's the chaser. A lot of fan talk requests of making the legacy and whiteout uniforms the official home and away uniforms. Who's in charge of deciding that, and what's the process of making that happen? And they want to make the throwback red jerseys the new legacy jerseys.
The blue, throwback blues, right? Throwback blues.
Throwback. Well, they want to make the
throwback blues,
the whiteouts, the color rush, the white jerseys,
and the legacies of
the
home.
legacies, the blue, the regular blue jerseys, and then they want to make the red jerseys the legacy
jerseys. I'm all for that.
Yes, that I believe I would phrase that an organizational decision.
Yes.
I think that goes all the way up to ownership in some way, shape, or form, but a lot of people would have a voice in that, but that ultimately...
I like it, though.
Uniforms would be a decision of ownership and management, football and non-football.
Yeah, people love the legacy jerseys. I love the legacy jerseys. Color rush.
I love the color rush
amazing.
ones, too. I love both of them.
But the question would be, what helmet would they wear? Because the legacy jerseys, they come with the legacy helmet.
Yes. I like the legacy.
I like the legacy helmet, but it's the retro logo.
Well, that's because both of us grew up on that helmet.
Yeah, it's the retro logo, so that can't happen. You're not gonna have a retro logo on a new jersey.
Well, maybe they go back. Remember, that was the primary logo. They could always go back to that being the primary logo.
Then everything has to change, right?
That's a lot of work. I take it back. Leave it the way it is.
Everything has to change. Everything has to change.
He's thinking about production, Pearson.
Yeah.
Let's leave it the way it is. 1,000%. I take it all back.
Schmeelk said, nah, I worked too hard to get that back there.
Years, bro. I'm not going through that again. All right, we got one more guy calling in. Let's get to Steve in New Jersey. He's going to wrap us up. Hey, Steve.
Hey, love the show.
Thank you.
Listener, first-time caller.
Thanks for calling.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for taking my call. Quick question, two things, actually.
Yeah.
You were talking about the pace on offense and how it affects the defensive line. So the question is, why doesn't that affect the offensive line? Why do they not get tired?
No, it does, but they practice it.
It's a good question, by the way.
And they're prepared for it. Like, they understand that they're doing it.
Offensive linemen, Steve, let me put it this way. They're used to playing 70 plays a game. Defensive linemen are not used to playing 70 plays a game. So even though the offensive linemen are the quote-unquote fat guys, they're actually used to playing more plays than the defensive line.
They don't really move as much.
Okay,
like,
so
at all.
They're more conditioned for that.
Mentally and physically, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Second question or second point. You talked about, we all know the return, our punt return issues and securing the ball. I think with our defense playing so well now, it's like a catch-22. We're causing more punts, and then we have to stress about the return game.
Yep.
Just an observation.
That's funny.
Good problem to have, by the way, Steve. I would much prefer that than the first few weeks when I think the other team punted like 3 times combined in the first 10.
Forcing 10 punts in it.
If you went back, at halftime of that Cardinals game in week 2, I think we were at a point where through 6 quarters, Dallas and Arizona had punted once.
Right. Yeah. No. True. That's absolutely true. But it's still it's very stressful every time they punt. Like, all of us fans were like, "Holy cow! Are they gonna just catch it or get out of the way?"
No, Steve, we're here, man. Appreciate the call, man. Good stuff. Yeah, look, it's a good problem to have. 18 punts last week. JC did a good job of counting those up. And we could be looking at something a little bit similar this week. Yes. And that's why, and here's another thing, by the way, when people talk about the offense, how much better it's been. Do you know how many possessions the Giants had last week?
Right.
They had almost twice as many possessions in a game than you would normally have, and they still only scored 14 points.
Yep.
Like, there were games where DJ was having 8 possessions a game.
Yeah.
Giants had 15 possessions on offense last year. I'm going to double-check exactly the right number.
Jones
but
definitely sustained drives a lot longer when he was playing quarterback. There was a lot more sustained drives. A lot of those didn't get points, and they weren't good in the red zone. But
so let's see. The Giants in that game had 14 offensive possessions, JC.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
And they only got 14 points out of that.
Yes. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 punts, a missed field goal, a fumble, and then the 2 touchdowns.
How many Commanders had?
Were 2 at the end of the half and end of the game, though?
Yes. One was end of the half, one was end of the game. Good point, Pearson.
So Commanders had 13?
Giant, though, the one at the end of the half, though, they got the ball at 59 seconds to go. So they theoretically had a chance to try to go down and do something. So I'll count that one. The one at the end of the game, though, was a kneel down. That's true. So it was more like 13.
13. Did Commanders have 13 too?
They had 14.
They had 14, and the Commanders only scored 7 points.
Yeah.
And they only had 1 drive over 22 yards.
2. Their final 2.
Their final 2.
Their final 2. But they did not have a drive over 21 yards until the fourth quarter. That's correct.
That's impressive.
That's really
defense.
good.
It's impressive defense. Only allowing 7 points, 1 of 15 on third down. If they can do something similar to that this week,
win the game.
The Giants will win the game.
And they're capable because
and it'll be very low score.
The Commander offense is better than the Jets offense. So it's something that you can certainly go out there and do. JC, good stuff.
Yeah, man.
Check us out. If you enjoyed this, check out our pregame show at 11 a.m. on Sunday on WFAN as we get you ready for Giants and Jets. And tomorrow it'll be Lance and Paul right here on Big Blue Kickoff Live at 12:30. All presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle to the New York Giants. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for getting on the phones. Thanks for sending your emails to bigbluekickoff@gmail.com. We'll see you next time on Big Blue Kickoff